While the industry was abuzz with a young series, Sword Art Online, about teens trapped in a VR game, there was a series that began airing between its seasons 1 and 2, one with a better plot, better characters, and worse consequences than if you die in the game, you die in real life. This series is Log Horizon. Authored by Mamare Tono and first published in 2010, it, like many series post-2010, started out as a web novel before being turned into a published light novel. In 2012, it would receive a manga adaptation by Kazuhiro Hara, and in 2013, the anime by Satelight would begin airing. Satelight being the same studio to make Ubel Blot, The Black Summoner, Rokudo's Bad Girls, World End, Fairy Tail, Hellsing Ultimate, and the Symphogear series. They would produce a 25-episode Season 1, which would air from October 2013 to March 2014, and while the series got a 25-episode Season 2 from 2014 to 2015, and a 12-episode Season 3 in 2021, those were made by Studio Dean. So what makes Log Horizon better than Sword Art Online? That isn't hyperbole, by the way. Log Horizon rates almost a whole point higher than SAO. Everything seems normal at first. The players of the MMO Elder Tale are doing their thing. The mage and leader of our protagonist, Shiroe, is hunting with his party. Akatsuki, who looks like some kind of ninja character, and Naotsugu, who looks like a knight. But it's quickly revealed that this situation they find themselves in is not normal at all. According to Shiroe, the game updated with a new expansion pack, and then the players who woke up in this world were able to actually smell and feel it. There's no indication that this is supposed to be a VR MMO, by the way. This video game just became real, and no one knows why. The menus are still there, and even though there's a log out option, it doesn't work. Shiroe first meets up with Naotsugu, and they do a bit of world building on what happened. Then meeting up with Akatsuki, who turns out to be a girl playing a guy avatar. Not really all that odd, but she asks Shiroe for a potion to rebuild her body to be more akin to what she's accustomed in the real world. Following exposition and some comedy, the main character group is formed. And the first thing they try to do is eat something, but nothing has any flavor. Then comes a call from Marielle, who... Shiroe was called to the Crescent Moon Alliance Guild to talk about the current situation all the players find themselves in. More world building, and Marielle tries to recruit Shiroe into her guild. We get some backstory on Shiroe, then we're back into the opening fight. And our protagonists begin to learn how to actually use their abilities. So what happens when you die in this world? Well, you're revived at the cathedral just like how it is as a game, but there's a cost. You'll learn about that later. With more world building, the story shifts to the aggressive guild recruiting, as well as some players treating this new reality as open PvP just to steal from others. And because this scenario is set up, the mains are ambushed with PvP. But even though it's 4v2, the PKs are outclassed. There's a lot of Shiroe exposition on how classes and skills work with the game. Kinda info dumpy, but it's only really to tell you what's pertinent at the time it's pertinent, so pay attention. And as it turns out, it wasn't 4v2, it was 6v3, and Akatsuki has already dealt with the two that weren't part of the initial attack. More world building. There's a lot of world building that goes on in the first season. A good portion of the early story is just Shiroe, Naotsugu, and Akatsuki talking about the state of the world and the players. Marielle contacts Shiroe again about her guild member being attacked in one of the other cities. The fast travel system that existed back when it was still just a game is no longer operable, so cities are more or less isolated at the time. And it seems this other city where her guild member is stuck is having Detroit levels of public order problems. So they want to launch a rescue mission to get her out of there. And of course our mains volunteer for the rescue mission. The show really sells the idea that actually getting stuck in an MMO is as terrifying as it is exhilarating. Being an avid Guild Wars 2 player myself, I can understand how it would feel to suddenly wake up in the body of one of my toons. Equal parts, this is going to be so much fun, and these things looked smaller. A weird quirk of this setting seems to be that cooked food has no flavor, while ingredients actually maintain what they should taste like. Kinda weird. Important for later. We're also treated to our first look at the character to be rescued, Sarara, and her protector, Nyanta. And it bears saying that Nyanta's Japanese VA, Joji Nakata, is delightful as the character. He's got this kind of suave voice, but because he's a cat, he punctuates his sentences with meows. It's usually the kind of moe thing you'd hear from cat girls, but this time it's a roguish cat man. Meanwhile, Marielle is having a meeting with smaller guild leaders about the current state of the city and players, and the mains encounter their first new enemy of the update. Plus, we're shown how bad things are getting at the main's destination. Basically, open criminality by a single guild. When the mains make it to their destination, Shiroi meets up with Sarara and we find out he's acquainted with Nyanta. Now the objective is to get back to the city they came from. Sarara, being a timid girl, is freaking out over the impending fight, but neither Shiroi nor Nyanta seem concerned. And of course, the fight does break out, and our mains show just how much they outclass everyone, even those of the same level as them, before flexing on the PKs with some exclusive mounts as they leave the city. After making camp, they make an incredible discovery. Only the food made by the vendors and game menus are tasteless. Nyanta roasts up some venison the manual way, and it actually has flavor to it. But it doesn't work that way for everyone, only those who have the job of chef manage to make actual food. Plus some world building on what used to be NPCs. Eventually, Shiroi has a talk with Nyanta about how to move forward. The plan is to rescue the players being exploited and impose a new level of order to deal with the social decay taking place. And to do that, Shiroi has to start his own guild.
We bear the story of those who challenge the edge of the earth. We are Log Horizon.
And that's generally how the story of Log Horizon flows. Characters are introduced, monologues happen as drama and events take place, and most of it actually feels like something that'd naturally happen if players were thrust into the same scenario. Aggressive guilds hogging hunting spots and acting like dictators over districts, extortion rackets on lower-level players, political drama between the strongest characters trying to keep a semblance of order that even involve the NPCs, called the people of the land, which even include nobility and royalty. Log Horizon didn't just use the trapped-in-a-video-game trope, it turned it into a kind of pseudo-isekai where real people live real lives but players still function from the game mechanics, as if it never stopped being a game. And in that way, it's not really an isekai series. It's hard to describe how familiar it feels if you're not an MMO player. The players change not just the economy, but the way the player characters interact with the world itself. They stop treating it like a game and actually start to live. From cooking to handiwork to literally buying property, the MMO setting itself is a half-sized recreation of Earth. The main city where most of the story takes place is a nature-reclaimed Tokyo with some extra fantasy buildings. Its name is Akihabara. There's no subtlety to it. But in recent years, the idea of melding reality with fantasy has become much more popular. I've been seeing a lot of manga running with this aesthetic, though they don't try to run the MMO angle like Log Horizon. Those other series just straight up say, yeah, gates and dungeons to a fantasy world are manifesting in our reality. They can be hit or miss with their settings. As far as characters go, I wouldn't call any of them overly deep aside from Shiroi. But he is one of the main characters and the major story and exposition driver, so he'd clearly get more thought put into his character and how he develops over any of the side characters. He's highly analytical and methodical. Though he starts out being overly standoffish in manner, he does break through and become a leader of his own group. And in spite of his status as a veteran player, he's not all-knowing, especially when it comes to the new reality of actually living in an MMO. Naotsugu is more comic relief than actual plot driver. He is also a mild skirt chaser, as his dialogue often suggests, but he doesn't actually chase any of the girls around. He's just kind of pervy, and his comments are met with comedic violence from Akatsuki, which in a way is kind of odd because Marielle obviously is more affectionate with him than she is with anyone else. Akatsuki takes her ninja roleplay very seriously, at least when she's not going slapstick with Naotsugu. Though just because they're the main characters of this story doesn't mean they get the most screen time. By the 7th episode, the supporting cast begins to get more and more of the screen time. Nyanta gets plenty to strut his charm. The Crescent Moon, DDD, and Westwind become more important as the Parliament of Guild Leaders come together to create an alliance to manage the city. And the politicking only gets messier when Princess Rhaenysia Crowan, representing the League of Eastal Freedom Cities and People of the Land, shows up. Mamare filled this world with personalities and made it feel more alive than even the real world feels sometimes. So back to the thing everyone wants to know. What happens when you die in this world? Well, if you're one of the people of the land, that's it. You're gone. But if you're one of the players, then you go to Mare Tranquillitatis, the Sea of Tranquility, the Moon server. It's a beach and unending ocean with Earth in the night sky. It's there that the player is revived at the cathedral in exchange for a part of their memory. Specifically the memories of the real world. That's why death in Log Horizon is much worse than SAO. Being trapped in Eldertale, the more you respawn, the more you lose of who you were, and the more like an actual NPC you become. And it's all the more terrifying to players watching it happen because they understand what's happening, which makes them more hesitant to take risks. Knowing this also puts more context on the characters that use sending someone to the cathedral as a means of control. Do they actually know what happens when you revive? Or are they ignorant to the reality of it and just threatening other players with loss of items and progress? All around, Log Horizon is a much better series than SAO, but didn't reach the same level of success for 3 reasons. And the first 2 reasons are the same as Excel World: complexity and timing. SAO just appealed to more people and had better timing. The third reason, I think, is because of the studio change. Season 1 is the highest rated and was made by Satelight, but Seasons 2 and 3 rate much lower and both were made by Studio Dean. That's not to say Dean doesn't do good work. They're also the studio that made Konosuba, the first run of Rurouni Kenshin, When Cicadas Cry, Hellgirl, Read or Die, and Fate Stay Night. But Satelight just did a better job than Dean, and it shows. Also, Season 3 of Log Horizon is half the size of Seasons 1 and 2. And with the sheer amount of characters and world Log Horizon has to offer, it can feel slow, even at 1.5 times speed. It's not a series of constant action. And that's Log Horizon. I am the NBT. This has been the Noble Weeaboo. Like or don't, sub or don't. This series isn't for everyone. For a high fantasy pseudo-isekai, it focuses more on the world building and character development than actually exploring the world. At least for the first season. But if you want a very story-heavy series, one that's both sci-fi and fantasy in a way that makes sense, then Log Horizon is for you. And thank you for watching.